Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm LeetCoder. If you guys are new here, I pretty much do LeetCode style questions and I explain things in the simplest way possible. Today we have a pretty interesting problem that I'm very excited about. So let's go ahead and read the prompt statement, right? So it says, given the head of a singly linked list, right? Return true if it is a valid palindrome, right? So yeah, so you guys know what palindrome is, right? So this thing is numbered, right? A number that reads the same forward and backwards, right? I'm saying 1, 2, 2, 1, right? It's the same way when you read it backwards, right? 1, 2, 2, 1, right? So that's clearly a palindrome. I'm saying this one, 1, 2 is not the same as 2, 1, right? So that's not a palindrome. So okay, it doesn't read the same forward as it's backward, right? So now I've already did a problem similar to this, right? So something should pop up here. So you guys should go check it out. How we did that using strings, right? So we could, yeah, so pretty much strings are pretty much an array of characters, right? So it was pretty easy for us to do that, right? Because we just use a two-pointer technique, guys. We have one in the beginning, one at the front, right? And then we just work our way inwards, right? And then easily solve that, right? I'm saying because that was an array, right? Sort of, right? We had random access to the last one, right? So we have random access when we use arrays, so that's a good advantage of using arrays to do that, right? But for singularly linked lists, right, we can't really do that, right? Because we can't just randomly have access to the last element of the list, right? We can't do that, right? So now we run into trouble. Now we need to think of clever ways to solve this problem, right? Now we have to use our brain and work our brain, and yeah. So, but luckily for you guys, I have a simple trick for you guys. That's gonna help us solve this problem pretty good. So the way we're gonna go about solving it, guys, I'm saying, is to utilize a two-pointer technique, right? So it's gonna be a variety of different techniques that we're gonna use actually. I've already did problems on all those techniques that I'm about to show you guys. I'm saying now this problem puts them all together. I'm saying so that's why this is a very good problem, guys, that I want you guys to get into. So yeah, the way we're gonna go about it, right? So we got two-pointer technique, right? So we're gonna use a slow and a fast pointer, right? So I did a problem very similar to this to that, right? So something should pop up here. You guys should check it out as well, right? So now the slow pointer, right? So now that we're gonna have a slow pointer, one that's gonna move forward one step at a time, right? And then the other one's gonna move forward twice as fast, right? And then by the time this fast pointer gets to the last element, right? The other pointer is slow is gonna be at the middle, right? So after we do that, guys, what I'm saying, we're gonna have to split it, right? I'm saying we split the list in half, right? Then after that, guys, I'm saying we loop through, we reverse the second half. So now we can simulate, right? Um, the idea of looping through the last element and working our way inwards, guys. What I'm saying, I know it might be confusing now, but let me quickly show you guys an example real quick. All right, hopefully you guys are able to follow along, and yeah. So I know that's probably a bad way of explaining it, but let's just go good example, right? So you guys see the same examples given, right? So yeah, I told you guys the slow and the fast pointer, right? So now I've got a pre pointer, right? That I'm introducing to you guys, right? This one's pretty good because the pre pointer is gonna just serve us to be one step behind the slow pointer, right? And then yeah, so the pre is gonna so by the time fast gets to null, right? Pre is gonna be pointing to the last element of the first part of the list, right? So that's going to help us in setting that last part of the first list, right? We're going to disconnect it from the whole list, right? By simulating splitting it in half, right? We're going to set it to its next pointer to null. So now we're going to have two separate lists, right? You'll see. I know it might be confusing now. I'm not explaining it well enough, but let's go do example real quick, okay? So now I told you guys, right? So now one iteration is this, right? Slow moves forward once, right? No, before that, right? Pre points to where slow's at right now, right? And now, boom, slow moves forward once, right? Boom. And then fast moves forward twice, right? I told you guys, boom, boom, right? So now that's one iteration, right? So now the next iteration, pre is pointing to where slow's pointing at, right? And then slow moves forward once, right? And then fast moves forward twice, boom, boom, right? For fast is also we're out, right? So now slow is pointing to the second part, so to the second half of the list, right? And then pre is pointing to the last element of the first list, right? So now to disconnect them, right, we're gonna set pre that next pointer, right, to point to null, right? So now let's just so we're gonna cut that, right? So we're gonna point that to null, right? Boom, boom, right? So now it's null, right? So now, yeah. So now what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna. So now that's the other half, right? That I cut from the first half. So we said pre's next to null, right? So now the slow, right? Yeah, yeah. So now, right? So we see that the slow pointer is pointing to the head is pointing to the second part, right? Right. So now we got that set up, right? And then we set up pre's next to null. So now that's the first half, and that's the second half, right? That's how we were able to split it, guys, by setting the pre's that next to null to disconnect it from the second part of the list, right? So that's a pretty good thing to know. So now, now that we have that, right? You know, slow was pointing at the middle element, right? So that's a pretty good thing to have. So now the next thing that we're gonna do, right? So now I told you guys, right? We need to loop through from so we get the first part, right, the head, right, and then the last element, right? I told you guys we have a pointer to this one and a pointer to that one, right, and then work our way inwards, right? So now, as you guys can see, right, from this, right, we see 2 is we don't have access to 1 yet, right? So now we run into some kind of trouble, right? So now to simulate that, 1 being the so we want to process 1 first, right, and check it with the first element, right? So we want to check the last element first. So the way we're gonna do that, right? We're gonna reverse the list, right? So I did a problem on that, guys. I'm saying to the reversal of the linked list, right? So now so I guess you definitely check that out, right? So after we reverse the second part of the list, right? That's how it's gonna look like, right? So now instead of 2 pointing to 1, right, 1 points to 2, and then 2 points to null, right? So yeah, so after we do that, guys, I'm saying the next thing that's gonna happen, right? So we're gonna use 2 pointers, right? 2 pointers to iterate through both lists, right? So now, yeah, so now we just get rid of that. So we don't need that anymore. Boom. All right, so we got those 2 lists, the things that we got the 2 lists that we wanted, right? So now we're just gonna do a simple loop through, right? So we're gonna have let's say we got L1, this is called the first iterator, L1, right? And then we have another iterator, right? So we could change that to L2, right? So we create another pointer, right? So L2 and L1, right? So now we just loop through, right? So we check L1, that val, right? Their values, right? If are they the same, right? Yes, they are, right? So we're good, right? We move forward, boom. So we move forward, right? And then now we move forward as well, right? Now we check this 2 match this 2, yeah? It matches, right? Perfect. And then we go null, right? Boom. This goes to null as well. And then we would exit out and it would return true because this was it was pretty good. It was a palindrome, right? Because yeah. So that's how those are the steps that we follow, guys, to really be able to solve this problem, right? Pretty much, we find the middle element, right, and then we split it in half. Split the whole list in half, right? And then we reverse the second part, right? Because we want to have access to the last element, right? And then work our way inwards, right? To simulate that. That's why we do the reversal, because we want to have access to the last element first and then work our way inwards, what I'm saying? So that's the whole algorithm to solve this particular problem, guys. So let's go ahead and implement that real quick. So yeah, guys, like I told you guys, right? We're going to have a slope pointer, right? Slope also starting at the head, right? And then fast also starting at the head, right? And then we have another one, right? Which I told you guys, the pre-verbal is going to be pointing to null first, right? Because it's just going to be 1 step behind slow, right? I'm saying, all right? So now, after we do that, right? We do the thing that I told you guys about, the fast, the 2 pointer technique, the slow and the fast pointer, right? Technique to do that, right? So while the fast is not null and fast that next, right, is not null, right? So while fast is not null, fast is not the last element, right? We're gonna keep being in this while loop, right? So now the next thing that we're gonna do, right? We just the pre-verbal is gonna be pointing to wherever the slow verb was pointing at, right? And then now the next thing, right? We move slow forward once, right? And then now we move fast forward twice as fast, right? That next, right? And then now so when fast gets null, right? We need to set pre that next, right? Because we need to split the list in half, right? That's why we do that, right? So now, because pre is gonna be pointing to the last element of the first list, right? And then we just set it to null, right? Just to disconnect it from the whole list, right? I hope you guys, everybody get that, right? So now, guys, we're gonna be in a pretty good shape, right? So now, guys, we're gonna use the, so L1, right? L1 is gonna be pointing to the head, right? I told you guys those two pointers that we're gonna use to iterate through both lists and to check their values, right? And then list node of L2, right, is gonna be so we need to reverse these reverse the linked list, right? So now we're gonna be passing it the slow pointer, right? Because the slow pointer, right, is at the middle, right, which is the head of the second part of the list, right? Because remember, a slow was pointing at 2, right? Remember? So that's why slow is at the head of the second part of the list, right? So we need to reverse that list, that second part, so that we could iterate through the last element first, right? Because we want to get the last element first and work our way inwards, right? So now, and after we do that, guys, I'm saying, so I'm gonna implement the reverse function really quick. So I did a problem on that, so it's very easy. So now, while L1 is not null, right, and L2 is not null, right? We're gonna keep iterating. So we check, right? So is L1 that val, right? Does it not equal to L2 that val, right? All those values not the same, right? If they're not the same, guys, we're gonna return false, right? Because hey, it's not a palindrome, right? I'm saying because they need to match for it to be palindrome. And we would just keep moving forward once, right? By one step at a time. You know what I'm saying? L2 as well moves forward one step at a time, right? Okay. Then after that, guys, I'm saying we just return true, right? Because if everything went fine, we're in pretty good shape. We'll be pretty good, right? So now let's just quickly implement the reversed function that we talked about, right? Because that's a critical part of this problem, right? So we're gonna be getting this head, right? And we do the pretty simple. So we just have a so we take reference to the head, right? Again, if you guys find this confusing, y'all, please watch that other video that I already did, guys. I'm saying, so it's pretty good. I went to a lot more details in that problem. I'm saying, so we do while occur is not null, right? So now we just got to take reference to the current node's next pointer, right? Right. We take reference to it, right? And then now what we're gonna do, right? We do cur that next, right? So we also need a previous pointer. Remember, guys, right? It's a very important one, right? So previous pointer is going to be pointing to null, right? Initially, right? And then now we do cur that next points to the previous variable, right? The previous variable, right? It's going to be the current variable that we're currently on right now. And then the current variable, right, is going to be updated to the original next pointer, right? Again, guys, I highly suggest you guys go look at the other problem to understand this, because reversing a linked list can be kind of tricky, you know what I'm saying? And then the prev is going to be at the head of the reverse list, right? So let's just go ahead and I think our logic is pretty good now. So let's just try to run the code, see if we get lucky. All right, seems like we passed that small test case. Let's see if we pass all the test cases, guys. So let's just yeah, see if we pass all the test cases. Yeah, so we check, yeah, we have to check if the, head is null or head that next is equal to null. So let's just, yeah, press run. All right, perfect. All right, we were able to pass all the test cases, guys. I'm saying, yeah, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you guys found value, make sure to give me a like. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.